Okay, so there's this scene in DP Season 2 where Shin A-hwi smokes a cigarette. Super quick moment, you could totally miss it. But I found this behind-the-scenes story that made me smile. So Hyun-wook, the actor playing Ah-hwi, he had this specific idea about how to make the smoking scene more stylish. But he's a newbie on this massive production, right? How do you pitch an idea to director Han Joon-hee without looking like you're overstepping? So he did something clever. He started playing with the lighter near the director, just like how Ah-hwi plays with it on that military truck, flicking it on and off provocatively, making it look natural. And director Han caught on. He used Hyun-wook's idea in the scene. I love that story because it shows you what kind of actor Hyun-wook is. And then there's this other story. After filming that insane confrontation scene between Son Seok-gu's Ji-sup and Hyun-wook's Ah-hwi, you know, that super tense, sparks flying moment on that isolated GP island, Son Seok-gu found Hyun-wook outside in the night air, looking relieved, and asked, "Why are you so damn good at acting?" Son Seok-gu was asking how this young guy, barely into his early 20s, could act this instinctively good. Reading about this made me grin, because after I fell for Hyun-wook in Weak Hero, I went down this rabbit hole, watching all his interviews, going through his filmography piece by piece, and I got this feeling. This guy has instinct. Real instinct for acting. But it's not just talent. He works. Anyway, today we're talking about DP Season 2, Episode 4, The Charred Remains, and why this episode hits way harder than people realize. Hey everyone, it's Jenny. For the new people, I analyze Korean dramas through a cultural lens that subtitles just can't capture. Mostly Weak Hero, DP, and the actors in these shows. Park Ji-hoon, Choi Hyun-wook, Hong Kyung. If you want those deeper layers that make you go, wait, I need to rewatch this, hit subscribe. Okay, let's go. Before I get into the episode, I need to tell you about this memory I have. Foggy autumn morning, dirt road on a mountain near the ceasefire line. I was maybe 10 or 11, picking chestnuts with my grandmother. My grandmother's house was ridiculously close to North Korea. From her front yard, you could see the barbed wire fences along the ceasefire line. My grandparents ran this tiny convenience store right next to a military base, and the atmosphere there, desolate and eerie. That's the only way to describe it. So that morning, picking chestnuts, I heard this rumble, military truck, coming down that dirt road. In the back, soldiers in full combat gear, fully armed, loaded in the back of the truck. And their faces. Looking back now, they had very young faces. So young. Years later, when I watched DP Season 2, Episode 4, I saw that truck again. And in it, Choi Hyun-wook's Shin A-hwi. Same truck, same young face, same feeling. It was like this episode reached into my childhood and pulled it onto the screen. That's how real this episode felt to me. Okay, so Bulgogi Goedam. If you're not Korean or didn't serve in the Korean military, you're probably like, what the hell is a bulgogi ghost story? Bulgogi literally means Korean-style grilled meat. But in this context, way darker. Bulgogi Goedam is one of the most infamous Korean military urban legends. The story goes like this. Decades ago, at a GP near the ceasefire line, North Korean soldiers infiltrated in the middle of the night, killed the South Korean soldiers, set their bodies on fire. By the time anyone found them, the bodies were so badly burned they looked like charred meat. Bulgogi, charred meat. Now here's the thing. Most Korean military horror stories, soldiers tell them to scare each other. But Bulgogi Goedam, officers tell this to their soldiers. To emphasize night watch duty. Stay alert. Don't fall asleep. This really happened. And some officers genuinely believe it. Did it actually happen? Nobody knows. But if you're a soldier at a GP, there's no way you wouldn't know this story. And every night, standing guard in pitch black darkness, staring at North Korea right across the wire, they think about it. That's what this episode brings in. Director Han took this ghost story and made it into a psychological thriller. Okay, so people keep asking about this episode. Was it not Joong-seok or Shin A-hwi who was the aggressor? And honestly, that's not the point. Who the aggressor is doesn't matter. Ah-hwi himself tells us this. There's this line I absolutely love. Ah-hwi says, circumstances, they're different for everyone who experiences them. That line is everything. So based on what fans figured out and what the episode hints at, here's probably what happened. Na Joong-seok was bullying Shin A-hwi in an area with landmines. Joong-seok tried to assault Ah-hwi. Ah-hwi pushed him back. As Joong-seok got up, he stepped on a landmine. Explosion, fire, death. So Ah-hwi was the victim. The trauma from that day, watching someone burn alive right in front of him, that's why he flinches at sounds. Why fire terrifies him. Every time he sees fire, he sees that scene again. His own personal Bulgogi Goedam. And here's the tragic part. Shin A-hwi, who was the victim, has transformed to become like Sergeant Na Joong-seok due to that day's trauma. Remember what Ah-hwi says to Ji-sup when Ji-sup's beating him? You haven't been at the GP long, but you've already changed. With this sneer, right? That line destroys me because Ah-hwi's speaking from experience. He knows, because he changed too. The victim became like the abuser. But here's the question. Is even this the truth? The truth cannot be known. In episode 5, Jun-ho steals this USB with all the covered-up truths. We watch him go through the files, uncovering incident after incident. But when he gets to the Ah-hwi and Joong-seok incident, the camera deliberately zooms in on Jun-ho's face. Shocked, eyes wide, confused. Only this incident, the screen intentionally doesn't show it. Why? Because they're saying, I'm not going to tell you the truth. Because in that space, what truth even is becomes ambiguous. Anyone within the system repeatedly becomes an aggressor, becomes a victim, and the victim becomes an aggressor. Look at Ji-sup. He comes to the GP and within such a short time, he's swept up in violence. The distinction between friend and foe becomes blurred. Okay, before we talk about why people say Season 2 is unrealistic, I need to tell you something that hit me while watching. The way Ji-sup climbs up to that GP with Jun-ho. Ji-sup's already made up his mind before he even gets there. Confirmation bias. A guy like Shin A-hwi must have attacked Joong-seok. He's decided. He goes up there with his judgment already clouded. He's standing on the line between reality and unreality. And you know what this made me think of? Okay, this is just my personal thing, but Shutter Island, that masterpiece by Martin Scorsese. In Shutter Island, Teddy Daniels arrives at this isolated psychiatric facility on an island. From the start, he's got confirmation bias. He's convinced they're doing unethical experiments. He sees what he wants to see. The arrival at that remote island, the tension building, it felt similar to Ji-sup and Jun-ho going up to that GP. Two guys entering an isolated space with assumptions already in place. Reality getting unreliable. But watching Ji-sup climb that mountain, already convinced a certain low-ranking soldier is guilty, same eerie feeling. And what's brilliant is, they're showing us Ji-sup's mind already at the edge. Already leaning toward confirmation bias on the boundary between reality and unreality. He's not seeing straight anymore. And Jun-ho? Watch Jun-ho climbing up with Ji-sup. He's filled with depression, hazy eyes, his mind slowly withering within the system. Then we see them, the hallucinations, his mother being beaten, the private he couldn't save, Han Ho-yeol's ghost. If you look at it this way, you could say the fantasy-like direction stands out. But that's the next question, right? Okay, so let me talk about what people are saying about Season 2. If you go in Korean forums, you'll see some complaints. Season 2 is too unrealistic. GP portrayal is exaggerated. Regular soldiers throwing cigarette butts at an officer's car? Jun-ho fighting almost 10 people? Come on, that's fantasy. And you know what? They're not wrong about the facts. These things wouldn't happen in a normal unit, but I think people are missing the point. Director Han said something important. If we're just repeating Season 1, there's no point in making Season 2. Season 1 was realistic, documentary-like, raw. Season 2 does something different. It uses metaphor, visualization. Yeah, exaggeration, but not to be unrealistic. To show us something realism alone can't capture. Let me break it down. Jun-ho's hallucinations. Jun-ho continuously seeing visions with hazy eyes. But they're not trying to show you medical symptoms. It's not literal, it's visualization. They're showing what's happening inside Jun-ho's mind as the system breaks him. The hallucinations are metaphors. The GP, as Lieutenant Lim Ji-sup said, their own league. In that isolated GP, normal rules broke down. In that space, reality itself warped. Is it realistic? But it's showing us what happens when a system completely fails. If they showed a realistic GP, we wouldn't feel the collapse. The exaggeration is the point. And that train fight? Episode 5. Jun-ho fighting almost 10 people. People complain. Impossible. And they're right. But that's exactly the point. Throughout the series, Jun-ho keeps hearing, what can you even do? Individual versus the state. Individual versus the system. That train fight? That's his answer. It's hitting stairs with a rock. You know it won't work. The will to try something. Anything. Nevertheless, can he realistically fight 10 people? But that's what they're showing. The absurdity. The absurdity of one person against an entire system. If it looked realistic, we wouldn't feel the absurdity. But because it looks impossible, because it is impossible, we feel the weight of what they're trying to say. So when people say Season 2 is too unrealistic, I get it. If you're looking for Season 1's documentary realism, you'll be disappointed. But Season 2 isn't trying to be Season 1. It's using heightened reality, metaphor, visualization, yeah, exaggeration. Not to escape reality, but to show us something about reality that straight realism can't. Remember my grandmother's house? One more thing about that place. Every holiday, after eating way too much, I'd go outside, sit on this little hill where you could see the barbed wire, just to get some air. And then I'd hear it, North Korea's propaganda broadcast, blaring continuously, echoing across the river-like sea. Even as a kid, just a few minutes of that made my stomach turn. Something about that sound, distorted voices, endless repetition, created this feeling of unease. And I only heard it for a few minutes during holidays. But imagine, you're at a GP where that plays all day, every day, for months. Isolated space, the tension of not knowing when infiltration might happen, and they tell you, the Bulgogi ghost story. Every night on guard, you remember that story. Is it real? Fake? You don't know. That's what DP shows us. Not condemning it, just observing. What does that do to a young mind? A mind slowly withering within the system. So how is today? Director Han Joon-hee's consistent focus on systems. DP- the military system. And that's exactly what Director Han described as the seasonal transition that originally inspired him. The strangeness of a country handing a gun to a kid who's barely figured out how to be an adult and telling him to protect the nation. Layered plot lines, confined social spaces, institutional violence, and systematic injustice. And honestly, I think the last system he'll tackle is family. Because family is the original system, right? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of this episode? And what system do you think Director Han will tackle next? See you next time!
뭘 자꾸 물어봐.